Welcome to the den. Welcome back to the den, everybody. We made it to episode 2. It's probably always the hardest one to make it to for a YouTube podcast, but I'm very excited to get into this episode. We're going to cover week 8 of the NFL, maybe hit a little bit of UFC kind of at the end, but we're going to go through every game this week. I'm still a little under the weather, as you can probably tell, but I won't sound like this in the future. I promise. This was a super exciting week. I got to really focus on a lot of different games, and there were a lot of good ones. So why don't we just jump into it? First one, we'll look at Thursday Night Football. LA took down Minnesota 37-10. A big showing out for Justin Herbert. Brian Flores is going to have some amazing schemes up there in Minnesota. And they were getting to Herbert. They were rushing him quick, getting on him and giving him I think he had 2.5 seconds to throw on average throughout this game. But he played great. 227 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. It's a good stat line, especially when you have no time to throw. We talked about how their O-line was beat up last week, but this was just Herbert being able to overcome that issue. Carson Wentz this game, I don't know if he hurt his shoulder in this game or if it was an issue before. You could tell he obviously was injured the entire time. Really weird that they kept him out there. His stat line obviously wasn't great, 144 yards, a touchdown and a pick, but I'm not mad at him. Obviously, he was hurt and he was just playing the whole time. We talked about how they lost their starting running back, Omarion Hampton, but there was a guy this week, Kamani Vidal, 23 carries for this guy, who I'd never heard of before this game, 117 yards and a touchdown. Shout out Short King. I think he's 5'8". He's an absolute baller, though. He was really shifty and he moved well, and putting up those numbers again against a good Minnesota defense is really impressive. Another guy, another rookie who we talked about last week, actually, the thumbnail of this video, Oronde Gadsden II. He is listed at tight end and he plays tight end. He doesn't look like one. He's like a receiver who's really built. And those guys, those are great, like Kelvin Benjamin kind of, but he's actually athletic and he's actually quick. And when Oronde Gadsden can catch it and run onto the ball as soon as he catches it, he's not going down easy. And you saw that last week and this week. 5 catches, 77 yards. He was just super impressive this week. Ladd McConkey, excuse me. He's a baller as always. He's been really good this year. Plays like your typical white receiver, kind of in the league, but he's got a little more size than most of them do. And kind of just looking on the outlook of this game, Chargers have a good future, especially this year. 4-3 going into it. 5-3 looks a lot better than 4-3 in my opinion, especially because it could have been 4-4 if they lost this one. But when Herbert can play this good, even with the injuries, I'm not sure how long their tackles are going to be out, but he just overcame that issue that I thought might set them back and clip their ceiling a lot more this year. But he was able to beat it. He was able to overcome it. And 37-10 is not just a scoreline to be okay, they won. They destroyed Minnesota. Again, you can look at the Wentz injury. This is still a team that has Jefferson. He produced well today. 7 catches, 74 yards. So this is a good win. I know Minnesota's record isn't great. I think they're 3-4 now, right? But it's still not just a win against some terrible team. This is a win that they're still going to be in playoff contention. They're still going to be possible Super Bowl contenders. Again, they do still have the injury issues that are definitely going to hold them back. But I'm not going to count them out for sure. I'm definitely not going to count out LA this year. Next game I want to look at. This was a game on national television, and I don't really know why. Probably because of the rivalry, but Buccaneers, Saints. Tampa Bay took down New Orleans 23-3. Not a close one. Probably the biggest storyline in this one, there actually was just an update on this today. Spencer Rattler got benched, finally. When I was watching it, I didn't think he was terrible. He did consistently miss throws, and obviously if your quarterback's going to do that, you have to take him out. but he didn't look like awful. 15 of 21, 136 yards and a pick. He wasn't great. And then Tyler Shuck came in. We talked about Tyler Shuck a little bit last week. He looked, I don't want to say better, but he looked like he had some skills that Rattler was lacking. Um, and especially in like the last drive of the game and maybe his first time getting the ball, he was consistently hitting his receivers. Tampa Bay's defense was on one today. They were so like they were everywhere. They weren't really letting too many mistakes happen. So if maybe the Saints did get a first down or two, it wouldn't really lead to much. Especially with Antoine Winfield on the field, man. Antoine Winfield, I know he had like two pick sixes or fumble recovery sixes, and they both got like taken back. I think, but Antoine Winfield still led that defense really well. Anthony Nelson had a ridiculous game. I haven't heard that name. He's like a backup edge for them who had a really wild game. He only had 4 tackles, but 2 sacks, and then a pick six where he just like bodied Rattler, and Rattler kind of just fell to the floor. That was a really cool play to watch live. I was like, my jaw was on the floor. I'm sitting in the in the back at my work. Um, but yeah, Tampa Bay's defense had a great game. Kool-Aid McKinstry from the Saints. There was a drive where Tampa kind of struggled in the red zone this game. But there was a drive where they did like 3 fadeaway routes in a row, all on Kool-Aid, and Kool-Aid locked them all down. Obviously, it's not Mike Evans, and usually that would be going to Mike Evans. But Kool-Aid McKinstry, he did a great job today. 4 tackles, 3 on his own. Just really impressive showing for him, especially when they test him over and over and over again, and he comes through every time. I thought Todd Bowles' rushing scheme was really good this game. They got to Rattler and Shuck consistently, and that forced a lot of the errors that came from this game. Um, Another thing from this one is the Bucks' weapons looked they didn't look great. Buka, he has all this hype, and he's still probably front runner for offensive player of the year, but only 3 catches for 35 yards today on like 9 targets, which is not a great ratio for me. But him and like Tez Johnson makes at least 1 or 2 mistakes a game. I'm not expecting that much from him. I know he's supposed to be a backup coming into this year, but he's getting real minutes, so I don't really trust him too much for a real contending team. Kadon looked fine. Rashad White didn't have a good game, but the Saints defense wasn't actually terrible today. Kind of talk about Kool-Aid, and then their secondary played good and kind of let that D line shine a little bit, especially like we talked about with the red zone offense of the Bucks kind of being shut down because they kept trying to run it up the middle, and then they kind of came through on 4th down, I think once or twice. But New Orleans defense was not bad today, and another game where Baker's MVP chances kind of get hurt. My friend, sorry, my friend, he's like, I started Baker over Justin Herbert this week in fantasy, and I'm so mad. And I don't blame him. Baker did not have a great game, no touchdowns, and just 150 yards. Again, really gonna hurt his MVP narrative that him and all those Bucks fans are kind of trying to push this year. Another game I want to look at, also from the midday slate on Sunday, was Denver versus Dallas, and the Broncos really in the second half of this game picked apart Dallas. We know Dallas is a solid team. They're 3-4-1 right now, but you watch their games against good teams, and most of the time they keep it pretty competitive, especially this year. I mean, they beat Washington like it might have been a very similar. I think it was 44-22 last week. Um, but the Broncos, especially in the second half of this game, made that margin of how good they were really different. 6-2, man. 6-2 is a great record. And Sean Payton's doing some good stuff over there in Denver. Kind of starting this game, there was a weird drive where Dallas got to the like the 1 yard line or whatever. They couldn't score. Pat Surtain got hurt, and then he was back the next drive. Thank goodness. That was a really scary injury for them. Um, I thought I don't know when he was hurt, but Riley Moss, the white corner, he like wears 21 on the Broncos. I thought he was fine, but he couldn't really keep up with CD or George Pickens, who are it was a dynamic receiver duo. This year they've been one of the best receiver duos, maybe the best in the league. But Riley Moss kind of struggled to keep up with them. After a few good plays, kind of early in the game. But the key to the Broncos' victory this week was their defense. They got to Dak at such a high rate just over and over and over again. And Dak's playing good this year, so it didn't kind of lead to a crazy blow. I mean, it's kind of a blowout, but it didn't really lead to like a blowout because Dak was able to hang in there. Dak had two interceptions this week where I was just looking at like I was watching TV like, what are you doing? Um, I want Dak to be good because he's a great guy. You know, Walter Payton Man of the Year. I want him to be good, and I hate when he does that. When he throws two picks and he's kind of just letting this defense beat him. I want him to be like a top 10, top 5 quarterback in the league, but this performance just shows that he's not that right now. Um, if you compare him to some of the better guys like Justin Herbert, who was getting like same thing, a bunch of pressure coming at him and getting through really well, Herbert was able to deal with that. Dak's just not. That's not like a. I'm not hating on Dak right now. I'm just saying he's not at that level. For the Broncos, J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey had pretty good days. R.J. Harvey had a really good run, a really good touchdown run, and I love to see that as a Knight. But J.K. Dobbins ran through this defense. If you're going against Dallas, your running game's going to do good. I mean, that's obvious. So this isn't like, oh, J.K. Dobbins might have to watch for his breakout. I don't think that's the case. I just think any running back who goes against Dallas is going to have a day because that defense is just so pitiful. And that's kind of going to stop them from being this next level team, from being this contender this year, as we've seen. I'm not saying something shocking. This is obvious. All of us know that Dallas' defense is the reason they're not going to succeed this year. Javonte Williams kind of got shut down again. I think that's just Sean Payton in this defense. I mean, Broncos pass rush is historical this year. They're getting sacks at a historical rate. Excuse me. But Dallas's passing game kind of was still able to hang in there and keep them in this game for a little while. Like I talked about George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb. But just a game for the Broncos. They walk out happy, walk away with a good win against a team gave some other teams some trouble. They didn't give us that much trouble. So a nice win for the Broncos. I don't like magic tricks. I've been hit with a few magic tricks in my day, and they just make me mad. I'm so confused. I'm like, what am I looking at right now? I think that same principle applies to the Dolphins Falcons game this week. When the Browns blow out the Dolphins 31-6 a week before, and then they blow out the Falcons 34-10, and Tua Tagovailoa goes 20 for 26 on like 200 yards and 4 touchdowns, no picks. It makes me so upset. Because I come on the podcast last week and I talk about they got to move on from Tua. Tua is not it. I also talk about how the Falcons defense isn't one to just be just be easily pushed away. I don't understand. Tua Tagovailoa should not be putting up these numbers. Is it just the Falcons suck on defense? Because I don't think they do. They've got guys like Bates. They've got, their D line's not terrible. They're a solidly coached team on the defensive end. Why are you letting Tua and Jalen Waddle, who put up like 100 yards and a touchdown today, why are you letting that happen? I don't understand this team. Kirk Cousins looked bad this week. He hit a few throws, but there was a clear edge on Michael Penix. Definitely, is better than Kirk, and having him out this week was not good. Bijan, I talked about him last week. Yeah, had a down game against the Niners, but that's nothing to be, ashamed of. This Dolphins defense just let 31 points up to the Browns. Quinshon Judkins has 3 touchdowns. Bijan Robinson is 9 carries and 25 yards. I think they need their passing game to work. I think any team probably needs the threat of a pass to get a running game to go. But Bijan Robinson, I don't understand that performance at all. Same thing. I don't like magic because it confuses me. This is when the NFL makes me mad. This is when the NFL confuses me. Excuse me. And upsets me a little bit. Kyle Pitts had a lot of catches today. It'd be like 3rd down and 10, and then they throw it to him, like with 5 yards to go, and he'd run backwards. Kyle Pitts, I mean, I'd like you to be a little better. Obviously, when I was a UF fan, he was there. But yeah, Devon Achane didn't have a great game. He had a few good catches for sure. I think he had like 5 catches for 25 yards, but rushing wise, he couldn't do much. And another reason why I'm so confused by this game. When the threat of the run, maybe they were just so focused on stopping Devon Achane, they let Tua eat so much. But how do you let that happen the entire game? I just This game was very confusing, and Miami definitely outcoached Atlanta for sure. Um, Another thing I want to bring up from this game, Ollie Gordon, the running back at Oklahoma State, his junior year, he was absurdly good. Then Oklahoma State just fell off, and then Ollie Gordon suffered. He was a good running back for Miami this week. I had like 4.5 per carry. Um, so kind of like what I talked about last week, even though his trade value is going to go down probably a good amount this week. If you move on from Devon Achane, I think they have a nice, solid option and a pretty good running back in Ollie Gordon, who we know like from college, who we know has potential, has real potential. I know his production senior year was not good, but we know that if they wanted to move on from Achane, if they wanted to tank, which after this game, I mean, who am I to say they should tank? I mean, they are 2-6, but if they wanted to move on from Achane, I think that's the right idea. And now they know they have Ollie Gordon behind them, who is still a serviceable and like a competent running back in the league. Next game I want to look at. This was another blowout this week. Colts beat the Titans, 38-14. Colts moved to 7-1. Titans dropped down to 1-7. We talked about how last week was kind of my realization that the Colts are really here to actually contend, probably for a Super Bowl. This week just proved it. They go against a bad team, and they shine. It's not like they won, but no one looked great. Jonathan Taylor looked great. Daniel Jones looked great. Michael Pittman also this week. He looked really good. 8 catches, 95 yards, and a touchdown. He had one catch where he was like fighting off a defender with one hand and just kind of slotted it right into his hip, and then it was a beautiful, beautiful touchdown catch. But the star of this game is definitely Jonathan Taylor. 12 carries, only 12 carries for 153 yards and 2 touchdowns. He had a third touchdown, but it was receiving, so he almost broke that like first running back with 3 consecutive games, 3 touchdowns. And the broadcast team was like, no, they didn't get it. But Jonathan Taylor's burst, as soon as he gets the ball in his hands, he's out of there immediately. And behind that Colts O-line, there was a few plays this game where no one could have missed that gap. I could have been in the backfield and ran it for at least 10 yards on on a few of those plays. But Jonathan Taylor is definitely not just a product of his O-line. He's also just so quick and shifty, as we talked about. Tennessee is always interesting to talk about because I'm gonna come on here and I'm gonna talk about again how Cam Ward is not playing that bad. 22 completions, 259 yards, a touchdown and a pick. It's so hard to produce as a quarterback when you don't have the right team around you, and he doesn't. Looking at his weapons, like Chimere Dike has been playing solid this season. Gunnar Helm looked all right this game. He had a touchdown. But that's not gonna get it done. And I think that it's more Cam Ward is making these guys look better than they are. If you gave Cam Ward like Teteroa McMillan, for example, let's just say they had Ward before and they went in the draft and they got T-Mac. T-Mac would help him out a lot, and Cam Ward will also help T-Mac out a lot. So I really, really need to emphasize this for the Titans. Go into next year's draft, target O-line and target receiver and tight end. You got to use at least some of your first, second, third round picks on those. Defense is an issue, of course. You know, they're 1-7. They have a lot of issues. But it's so much more important to get Ward that help now to advance his development for the future. I'm just imagining it right now. I love to see Cam Ward behind a good old line. He already keeps his eyes downfield when there's pressure coming. There was a few plays where he's just like moving away from the pocket or in the pocket. He's moving around the pocket and his eyes stay downfield the whole time. He's moving well. That's a good trait to have. They just need to target weapons and O-line in the draft so that can set them up. This is not going to be a 1-year turnaround for this team. It's not going to be, I don't think at least, they're not going to go to the playoffs next year. I don't think it's going to happen. You're going to have to use your time that you have. It's not like there's a coach there right now that could get fired because I think they're still in their interim right now. But you got to target weapons next year. Then maybe in 2 years, you can start to worry about locking down that defense with more talents or free agency. But you got to get him something that's going to help his development now. Another game I want to look at this week. The Ravens, they beat the Bears 30-16. This game was close kind of in the first half. Bears did a good job. And Caleb Williams especially, I thought he played solid today. 25 completions, 285 yards. He did have a pick. I think he had another near miss pick that should have been picked. But he does a good job getting the ball to his receivers where they can catch it. Now, does he put the ball where only they can catch it? No. And that was the reason he had a pick in his own like 20-yard line earlier in the game. So he's not afraid to put the ball in some sketchy places, but he does it a little too much. Um, Luckily, DJ Moore is pretty sure-handed. Roma Dunze had a nice game today, but Caleb Williams, him making these risky throws, it's just not always going to work out, especially if you only have like DJ Moore as your best receiver on this team. Baltimore's key to victory this week came with playing Tyler Huntley in that same scheme that they used Lamar in. Tyler Huntley's quick. I didn't know he was that quick. He had some nice rushes today, 8 carries for 53 yards. I mean, he was running the ball pretty well. But he also passed solid, 186 yards and a touchdown, no picks. Always like to see something like a stat line like that from your backup quarterback who can play in that same scheme that they use Lamar in. And this coming off this win, I think Lamar should be back next week. You can use that okay, it worked with Huntley. If we just continue to do the same thing, and I know their schedule gets a lot easier. This is probably the first game in their easier schedule looking towards the future, where they'll be able to just rack up wins. Win. And if you don't make any mistakes, which it's the NFL any given Sunday, we really saw that this week. It's going to be hard. Of course, it's not going to be easy, but they should be able, once they get Lamar back, just kind of keep moving forward and try to drive for a playoff spot after this awful start. Derrick Henry's stat line today was 21 carries and 71 yards. So he had 2 touchdowns. One at the end, he kind of bounced outside. It was a nice touchdown, but this is kind of what I talk about when Derrick Henry is not a top 5 running back in the league. Last year, he probably was. Years before that, he definitely was as well. But they couldn't just rely on him today. You want a running back on your team, especially if they're getting like Derrick Henry money. You want a running back that you can rely on to go win you a game, that you can fall on to win you a game. Bears defense isn't like, I'm not saying that he should have, it's like Dallas defense where he should have had a great game. But you're giving him 21 carries and he's not even surpassing 100 yards and he's supposed to be this, S tier running back in the league. I'm just not seeing that right now. He had a few good plays this game where he breaks through, maybe first tackle and gets a few extra yards. But again, I'm just not seeing a top 5 running back when I watch Derrick Henry this year. And that's unfortunate, again, because you want the Ravens to be good, maybe. But when they get Lamar back, they should be all right. And also getting Lamar back is probably going to boost Henry's play a little bit because that threat of the run, or the threat of the pass, and the run from Lamar is going to definitely open up some lanes for Derrick Henry. Next game, unfortunately, we have to look at from this week was my Panthers getting blown out by the Buffalo Bills. 40-9 was the final score. I'd like to say it was kind of close going into half, but it really wasn't. James Cook just tore our defense up. 19 carries, 216 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I can't even tell you how many plays from this game. James Cook just found a hole that was created for him because our defensive line sucks. And he just took it up the field, like at least a 30-yard gain. He had so many plays where it just exposed our entire defense. Our safeties and our corners couldn't get down and prevent like these big plays. They just didn't do that. Josh Allen had a quiet day, 12 completions, 162 yards, and a touchdown, but they didn't need him to do anything. So yeah, this is a nice bounce back win for Buffalo. Buffalo coming off that 0-2 stretch. I think Sean McDermott, he's 9-0 off the bye, so that's always going to help them, in his tenure, getting that break. But I really want to talk about Carolina. I've obviously been keeping up with Carolina the most, probably out of any team this year. I knew Bryce Young going down was going to be bad. I already thought that Dalton didn't look great when he was playing. Dalton made me really upset this week. Dalton he went 16 of 24, 175 yards and a pick. Stat line doesn't sound that bad until you watch the tape and you see Andy Dalton hold onto the football for so long. We know that these weapons are capable of getting open and putting your quarterback in a position where he doesn't have to hold on the football for so long and take 7 sacks. Andy Dalton took 7 sacks today. Like, I understand Buffalo's defense is good, but Buffalo's defense has struggled in games past this year. Our offense was our staple last year because our defense was terrible. Our offense kind of wasn't our staple this year, but it was good, right? It was good. We were 4-3. We were a 4-3 team. We had a winning record in the NFL. It didn't feel like that at all this game. Now we're 4-4. That record feels fake. We don't feel as good as a 4-4 team, or going into this week, a 4-3 team should. It doesn't feel like we have the talent for it. Looking at our running game, Rico Dowdle played good again. 8 carries, 54 yards is solid. Chuba Hubbard isn't good anymore. Let me not say that. He's still obviously talented, but he's not playing good anymore. I've been watching Chuba Hubbard, I think for the past 4 or 5 years on this team, get real minutes, and he does this every year. Maybe he has a few good games. Then he just gets mid again. And this offensive line isn't terrible. It's not terrible. I think we have a few injuries. It's not that bad. When Bryce is there, he's not holding on to the ball for 5 seconds and taking 7 sacks in a game. It's just very disappointing to see Andy Dalton still back there. I'd rather somebody else. I know there's not great backup options right now in the league. I just don't like watching Andy Dalton do this to our team, who had a chance this game to go. We're 4-3. Buffalo's 4-2. This should be a close game. If you just look at the records, you don't look at the teams, you just look at the records. This should be a close game. This is why it doesn't feel like a real 4-4 team. This game turns down my outlook on the season a lot. I didn't really think we had playoff hopes, but I wanted to. I wanted to believe that. I can't really believe that anymore, especially after this game. James Cook. This game showed me that he has a little more talent than I knew. I thought he was just a product of that Buffalo scheme, but he made some individual plays defeating, just breaking down our defense on his own after he broke through the holes that his O-line created for him. And again, I think Rico Dowdle needs to take over that number 1 running back spot until Chuba can prove it that he's still good. And I'm not saying Chuba was never good. Chuba was good. Chuba has had stretches in the past where he's got a nice combination of speed and power and athleticism. When one of those things goes down for him, all of them come down. And he just looks like a running back in the league who's going to go 12 carries and 34 yards. So I feel like I'm reasonably frustrated at this team and Andy Dalton for just letting our offense get bullied by the Bills. I am disappointed in the defense for sure, but I'm giving them a break because it's Buffalo. I would have liked to see our offense contend against this team like a lot of other teams did to Buffalo this year, especially because we're at home. Bank of America Stadium is supposed to be like a fortress for us. We were undefeated at home going into this game. It's whatever. I'm a Panthers fan. It's not like I'm not used to it. It's just when you get this hope, you don't want that to happen. Next game I want to talk about, New England. Whoa, New England defeated the Browns 32-13 this week. Again, we see Drake May just ball his butt off. He was having a little bit of a hard time this game because Myles Garrett and in the Browns D-line, Myles Garrett has 5 sacks this game. Very impressive from him. But he was able, to pick it up, and even though he had a few not as great plays, he still had a good game, 18-24, Last week I came on the podcast and I said, why is TreVeyon Henderson not getting more carries? Ramondre Stevenson's serviceable and he had a good game last week. Why is Henderson not getting more carries? I don't know who went into that front office and told him, but they made the right decision. TreVeyon Henderson even still had less carries than Stevenson this game. I hope that changes next week. 10 carries for 75 yards. You saw him play just as shifty and elusive as he did at Ohio State. And the Browns defense isn't terrible. We know this. We know Browns defense is bad. Especially if you look back at last week when they hold Miami to 6, and Miami goes and beats Falcons with 34 points on the board. Dylan Gabriel looked all right in the first half. His 2 picks kind of felt like he was just throwing the game away. Really frustrating because without those 2 picks, this game would be a lot closer. It's still 21-35, 156 yards and 2 touchdowns. with the 2 picks is not terrible. Um, and his play, it's not like, okay, we can keep him, maybe he can turn into something. It's like, all right, if he's our starting quarterback this year and we're going to replace him next year, it's not the end of the world. That's kind of what I take from watching him play now. Judkins got shut down this game, and I kind of saw that coming, especially off he had so many carries last week against Miami, and that was his best game probably. But he got shut down this game. Harold Fannin, who's looked nice out of Bowling Green, that was a little draft crush of mine this year. He looked solid this game. We talked about Robert Spillane a little bit last year. He was kind of leading this defense, and he had a down game last week. This week he had a great game. 14 tackles. I think their second highest tackler had like 6. Robert Spillane was everywhere. He had a nice pick on Gabriel too this week. But just another good win for New England. It feels kind of weird them without Brady, seeing them as 6-2 and seeing them as real Super Bowl contenders. But you have to look at them like that right now. I don't think you can. They beat Buffalo. They beat the Bills. I mean, that's a win. Especially looking at the Carolina game from this week. That's a win that I can use to say this team isn't just have a good record and they're not, not actually that talented. This team is a real contender this year. And it's really weird to look at that for me. Really weird to see New England without Brady. But Drake May's in that MVP conversation, as he should be. And New England is playing at a level where they can contend in the playoffs this year. Again, like I talked about, it was kind of close at half. The Patriots keep giving up like first drive touchdowns. I think Cleveland, they had like 10 or 9 points early in this game. And so that might be an issue kind of leading in the future, how they kind of start kind of slow. But I'm not too worried about that. Obviously, they come back, later in the game. So a solid win for New England, and they're kind of just still moving forward as one of the better teams in the NFL who should be contending in the playoffs. Browns moved to 2-6 after this one. You can't expect much from them this year. I don't think anyone was. So this isn't awful to take this loss. It's just you're a bad team playing bad. It's kind of what's just going to happen. Next game I want to look at from this week, the Philadelphia Eagles beat the Giants 38-20. This was really close to their last matchup where the Giants actually beat the Eagles at MetLife. And I don't like it too much when the NFL does these close games, these like where they face the same team in their division, because it kind of makes me lose interest for some reason. But Philly played great. Eagles offense had a nice game, making sure that their identity isn't just in their defense, who hasn't looked as good as they did last year compared to this year. Jalen Hurts, 4 touchdowns, no picks, 15-20. Looked great. Devonta Smith, who I talked about last week, had a good game, 6 catches for 84 yards. Jahan Dotson absolutely mossed somebody on the Giants. And that was just kind of like the tombstone on this game. Jahan Dotson is mossing your corner for a 40-yard touchdown. Eagles run game kind of tore apart the Giants today. Saquon, 14 carries, 150 yards and a touchdown. And Tank Bigsby, 9 carries, 104 yards. I don't think that's Tank Bigsby being that good. I think that's the Giants not able to defend the run, which is weird because their pass rush looked good earlier this season. We know how much talent they have in their pass rush. A guy, especially Brian Burns, who I'm a big fan of. I've got jersey and his poster on my wall from when he was in Carolina. I think he should maybe be in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation this year. But obviously, he can't lead that defense to a win. We saw that this game. This was probably Dart's worst game, Jackson Dart as a starter. But his game wasn't that bad. Like 14-24, 193 yards, a touchdown, and no picks. When that's your worst game from your late first round pick, quarterback, who wasn't even supposed to start this year, who Russell Wilson earned the job above him, that's a good sign. You're not expecting Jackson Dart to play at a super high level, kind of like Cam Ward. Because he was number 1 pick, you want him to play super good. You don't really expect that from Dart. So this is still a solid outlook for them. Terrible, terrible, terrible injury to Cam Skattebo. Malik Neighbors already goes down this year, and now you lose Cam Skattebo. The Giants fans must be going through it right now. They have to be. It's because before those 2 injuries, this team was kind of like they had the hype around them. They had like the aura, right? Like they were kind of there was the picture of all the Giants players on the boat. It was like they were on a new era and they were away from that time in Giants football. But these two injuries and now them being 2-6, it kind of feels like they're going back towards that poverty franchise direction that they were in for so long. And you hate to see that, especially when they had all this young talent and now they're just getting hurt. Um, it's a privilege to have good young players, especially that you get low in the draft. So like you're not, there might not be a Cam Scatterboo. The fact that you can have a Cam Scatterboo that can get injured is nice that you even had him, but also still very, very upsetting probably for the fans, like just that you have to lose him. But yeah, a good win for the Eagles. Not too much to talk about in this game. This is kind of just the 6-2 Eagles still being a contender league, kind of bouncing back from their loss against them, proving that was like, all right, we were just not locked in that week. Obviously, there was some like diva stuff in the locker room, but yeah, I mean, just a solid performance from the Eagles today. Giants, I think their season's about over. Probably after this game, you can kind of tell, especially with the scat injury. But Eagles, they just got to continue rolling, especially when they get into the games against good teams. That's when I'm going to really be tuned in and locked into the Eagles to see are they going to keep making the mistakes that they made earlier this season. Next game I want to look at, probably the best game this week to watch, um, was the Jets versus the Bengals. Last week, I said I was retiring as a Justin Fields believer. I'd seen enough Justin Fields. He's off my radar because, you watch him get benched for Tyrod Taylor against Carolina. Um, and I don't know if I'm going to say I'm back on the train for Justin Fields, but he looked pretty damn good today or Sunday. I mean, 21 to 32, 244 yards and a touchdown. That's good numbers, man. That's good numbers. Breece Hall looked electric for the Jets. 18 carries, 133 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He also had a passing touchdown, a real clutch one at the end of the game. And I could sit here and I could say that the Jets offense is finally picking it up, and now this is where the Jets are going to kind of turn around and get a few more wins, even though they're not going to make the playoffs. But I'd be lying to you. Last week, I said that I blamed the Pittsburgh offense for losing to the Bengals. Pittsburgh put up 31 points that game. You kind of look at me and be like, what are you talking about? This is the evidence. This right here. The Bengals let the Jets, the 0-7 Jets before this game, put up 39 points on them. This is just proving how bad the Bengals defense is this year. When you don't have Joe Burrow and your defense sucks, you're not going to be able to contend. Flacco looked competent this week. I don't think they lost because of Flacco. I mean, obviously 39 points is not a bad number to put up. 223 yards and a touchdown. Again, Flacco looks solid. But to beat the Bengals, you have to go score a bunch of points, and it shouldn't be that hard, and that's what the Jets did today. So yeah, I can't just say I'm back on that Fields train. I'll have to see him do this again against a good team. But this is obviously good for their locker room. Getting that first win, it's not going to be too bad for your or for your first round pick odds. I mean, they're still probably the worst record, but I think they're still the worst team in the league record wise. But yeah, for the Bengals, this sucks. This takes them, for me at least, this takes them out of that. Like, okay, I'm still waiting for Burrow to come back and maybe they can make something happen. I don't think that's going to happen anymore. You just lost to the 0-7 Jets. They have a nice thunder and lightning duo back there. Samaje Perine and Chase Brown. They both had about 10 carries. Perine had like 94 yards. Chase Brown had 70. Um, I don't think Perine's going to continue to have this production. Again, it's against the Jets. These are two bad defenses in the NFL. So it's still probably Chase Brown's going to probably next week go back to being the number one back in this offense. Jamar Chase again looked great. Um, it's just like Bengals are worse than we probably think they are. Bengals probably aren't as good because their defense is so bad. They're probably similar to Dallas. I mean, they're just a tie away from having the same record as them. Dallas 3-4-1, Bengals 3-5. And again, it's just two teams whose offenses we know are good, but their defenses just hold them back. I thought Fields, because he had so much time this game, he looked good in the pocket. It wasn't just like he's scrambling everywhere and then he makes a nice throw. He looked good in the pocket. He actually looked poised and like he would hit the open guys and put the ball in the right place for them. But yeah, this loss just for the Bengals really takes them out of any playoff contention, or I'm waiting for Burrow to come back. Now Joe Flacco's just there to lead them probably like 8-9, 9-8 record, not make the playoffs. A game I'm kind of excited to talk about this week, even though it contradicts a lot of what I've been saying so far, was the Texans 49ers game. Texans moved to 3-4 after beating the Niners 26-15. This is not a great loss for the 49ers, especially for their playoff chances. They're 5-3 now, which I don't think they're not going to make the playoffs exactly. But you do have the Rams in that division if it comes to like a wild card spot, because there's so many good-ish teams this year. This might this might be a loss where you can look at and be like, this would have been one that's really nice to win. But the biggest takeaway I got from this game is that DeMeco Ryans completely outcoached Kyle Shanahan. They just kept running play action against the Niners, and it worked every time. Especially early in the game, they just play action, play action, play action. C.J. Stroud gets 39 attempts this game. He hits 30 of them, 318 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also had a pick. But Stroud looked good this game. And I was kind of asking for C.J. Stroud, like, I want to see your performances that you had from like your rookie year. I want that back. This was one of those games. And just DeMeco Ryans' ability to just defeat Shanahan, who we talked about as a great coach last week. This is just big for the Texans. 3-4 is not a record where out of playoff contention. So at this point in the year for me, I talked about Woody Marks' hype train goes down. Nick Chubb's not a great running back. They both have good games, and that's also a product of that play action game that DeMeco Ryans used against just to break down the Niners this year. We know that the Niners are so bruised and battered through all the injuries, and I don't think this game goes the same if the Niners have all their stars. But the Texans just outcoached them today. Especially in the beginning, Niners had absolutely nothing until like right before the end of the first half. Then they kind of got rolling a little more, but DeMeco just beat him. They kept getting to Mac and their rushing scheme. They never sent like too many guys, it looked like to me, but they were able to get through and put the pressure on Mac Jones, who is at a level in his career where he's not able to make plays, kind of like we talked about Herbert. He's not at that level right now. But yeah, just a really well-coached game from the Texans. Xavier Hutchinson, kind of a quiet name, but he didn't have a quiet night. 5 catches for 69 yards and a touchdown. Juwan Jennings of the Niners, he had a nice catch, kind of like down at the 1-yard line. But yeah, just looking at the coaching again, I don't think that the Niners mixed it up enough. I thought they thought this game was going to be a lot easier than it was, but it wasn't. And they weren't able to get their offense going till Shanahan started mixing things up. Whenever they did these rollout plays, that worked really good against this defense. But just like I don't like the Shanahan's going in this game and not scheming right and not coaching this team right, because this is a big game. This is an important game. The Texans can be good. We know that. And it just didn't seem like they came into this game ready for it. CMC had a quiet night, unfortunately for me and my narratives that I like to push. Excuse me. 8 carries for 25 yards is not good. He had a few good catches though, 3 catches for 43 yards. But yeah, I just think that when you watch this game, you see that the Texans outcoached them. They're still a contender for the playoffs in this league, as they should be, and this is not a good loss for the Niners, not one that they want to take this year, especially because they have so many games coming up that this is a nice win that you'd like to have against a very beatable team. You should think that's a very beatable team at least. But again, Stroud's performance was good. Marks and Chubb kind of having their solid games in the backfield, both eclipsing 50 yards. It's not too much on the Niners, but just good performance from the Texans and a great coaching performance from DeMeco Ryans. Let's look at Monday Night Football now. Chiefs defeated the Commanders 28-7. When I was watching this game, you hear the commentators glaze. These Chiefs games are a little weird to watch, and kind of can get a little boring because of that. But the biggest thing I saw in this game is that Marcus Mariota was a solid backup. He's a solid backup. If you put Andy Dalton on this Commanders team, they probably don't even score 1 touchdown. But yeah, Marcus Mariota played good. Not like really good, and he wasn't just not bad. I think he was good. That's about it. He moved well around the pocket, and he hit the open guys when he had it. Pat Mahomes started this game with 2 interceptions, One was just a really good Marshawn Lattimore play. The other was Travis Kelce being old, just throwing the ball up in the air. Bobby Wagner came down with it. Nice to see B Wags get another play. But the Chiefs in the second half, they got rolling. They got back in their stuff. Um, Travis Kelce's decline is pretty obvious to see. 6 catches for 99 yards is good, but there are a few plays you can just tell his athleticism isn't the same anymore. But his connection with Patrick Mahomes is good enough to where he's still going to be able to just dominate defenses because him and his quarterback know each other so well, and he's got a great football mind. Um, Pacheco had 12 carries and 58 yards. Kareem Hunt had 9 carries and 40 yards. I'm a big Pacheco fan. I like the way he runs the football. I think guys who give more effort than other players, that's a valuable trait that should be looked at and should be seen as an actual skill. I wish they would give him the ball more. I hope they're playing Hunt this much to keep Pacheco from getting injured. I know he's had a few injuries in the past, but I think you could rely on Isaiah Pacheco as a workhorse back and add that element to your offense where it's not just like, okay, Kareem Hunt, we're going to have to game plan for him because he'll probably get 5 yards per carry. Pacheco can break away real runs. And when him and Kareem Hunt are basically splitting carries at this point, I think that takes away a possible skill that you could have in this offense. Washington defense, they had this one play where they let up like an easy touchdown on 4th down. Like Pat Mahomes rolled out and Bobby Wagner could have stuck with, I think it was Kelce or maybe Noah Gray or something like that. And then he just ran at Mahomes, which was, I was watching. I was like, what are you doing, bro? But they looked solid in the first half, kind of fell off. Jeremy Reeves, I think he's a safety there in Washington. He had a really good game. He was everywhere, especially in the first half. He was tracking everyone down, and he was like in the backfield. There were a few screen passes where Jeremy Reeves knew exactly what was happening, went there and got the tackle behind the line of scrimmage. So not a terrible game from Washington. We know the Chiefs are going to be good. We know they're going to contend in the playoffs. I think they're like 5-6 or 5-1 over the last 6 games. So I mean, this is nice for the Chiefs. They're going to probably get this rolling, maybe end the year with only like 2 or 3 more losses at most, which is maybe like a little surprising for them this year. There was a really funny play where Debo got like tried to catch it from Mariota, and Mariota's 2 picks this game. I kind of write him off because one of them was this one, and one of them was at the like very end of the game where it didn't matter. Debo the ball's right in his hands, and he like throws it up in the air, and it gets picked by the Chiefs. I thought that was a hilarious play. But yeah, just the Chiefs being the Chiefs on Monday Night Football. I don't think this game is too different with Jaden Daniels. And I think when you have your backup play good and you still lose, I don't think that's ever a good sign. So when Mariota plays this good, I don't think Jaden Daniels is going to come back, especially with the year that he's been having, and be much better. So that's a little scary for them, but not too worrying because we know this is the Chiefs and we know the Chiefs' defense is actually good now. So it's not like their offense couldn't produce against a mediocre defense. That's not what happened this game. The Chiefs are just a well-rounded good team now. Last game to look at from this week of the NFL. Sunday Night Football. Packers took down the Steelers 35-25. Packers moved to 5-1-1, a great record, of course. Steelers take this loss, another loss for them. They were 4-1 earlier. I kind of look at them, 4-3 team, 0-2 right now. Not great for their outlook on the season, but it was kind of entertaining. I was at a friend's house for this game, and his roommate kept coming in. I mean, like, this game is so boring. Like, why isn't it getting good? It was like a close game throughout, but I kind of see what he was talking about. For like kind of watching these two teams, it's like you're not really seeing too many crazy plays, except for from one guy. This was a draft crush I had. I think this was last year. I think this was a 24 draft. Tucker Kraft on National Tight Ends Day. What a baller outing he had. 7 catches for 143 yards and 2 touchdowns. And when I watched him today, I hadn't been able to see too many good Tucker Kraft performances in the past. I saw a lot of Travis Kelce, and that's kind of a weird thing to say, but not Travis Kelce from this year. Travis Kelce from a few years ago when he was a little more athletic. He kind of had that same like sluggy running, but it like just somehow beats defenders. I don't understand it, but it clearly works. And there he had a few plays. One play like where Jordan Love just lobbed the ball in the air and prayed, and Tucker Kraft not only came down with it, but he broke the tackle and he kept running. So just a really nice game from him and a guy that I was a big fan of coming out of South Dakota State, I do think last year. Jordan Love's game this week, 29 to 37, 360 yards and a touchdown. A great game, of course. And we talked about this last week. The key to the Steelers losing that Thursday Night Football game against the Bengals was their defense not playing as good. This week, again, the key to their loss was their defense not playing that good. They held up kind of the first half, and they got broke down as the game went on. But this is a team that their identity used to be in their defense. You remember the Ben Roethlisberger teams in the past, like that it was they had their big three, AB, Le'Veon Bell, and Ben Roethlisberger, and their defense was iron, But right now, their secondary just really struggles. Their run D held up today. Josh Jacobs was held to like under 3 yards per carry, and Emmanuel Wilson kind of at the end of the game had some nice runs. So Emmanuel Wilson of the Packers, he had 11 carries for 61 yards, but it was really their pass defense that was getting beat today. Christian Watson came back and had a solid night, but Jalen Ramsey, I think Jalen Ramsey was lined up against him most of the night. Held him to only 4 catches, but 85 yards is still good. And you just saw Tucker Kraft and Jordan Love be able to pick apart their defense over and over and over again consistently. So if Pittsburgh wants to be a competitive team, their offense is fine enough. Aaron Rodgers is playing solid this year. This game, he even had a good one, 24-36, 219 yards and 2 touchdowns, no picks. And Jaylen Warren, we know he can be solid. He was serviceable this game, 13 carries, 62 yards. So we know their offense is fine enough, right? But for them to be actually competitive, they need that defense to get back to that level that they were at. And they're just not doing that this year so far. Like I kind of talked about, when Green Bay, because they were running the ball a little more with Jacobs in the beginning, when they moved away from that run game, which they probably should have done from before, because we know that Pittsburgh can kind of struggle with these strong passing games, that's when Green Bay started to pick it up this game. Another thing I want to hit on from this game is Chris Boswell. Chris Boswell, I think he made 3 field goals from over 50 yards this game. He's been a really good kicker, and he's kind of like an underrated kicker in the league. He's been good consistently for the past few years. I know only the Steelers fans are probably gonna know that at this point. But Chris Boswell shouldn't be looked at as just another kicker in the league. But yeah, just if the Steelers want to actually be competitive this year, they need their defense to step up a little more. The Packers outlook. I kind of trashed on the Packers last week because they only beat Arizona by 4 and they didn't look that good this game. This game, they did look solid. They did look like a good team in the NFL. But when the Steelers play like this and they let this game slip away from them pretty easily, I still believe that the Packers are going to have some troubles later in their season. If they can go into the playoff as a high seed, I think that's actually going to help them a lot being at home. And if they can go into if they can go into the playoffs with a good second half performances and they can keep up this great record they have, like if they can end like 13-3-1, then I might trust them a little more. But I'm still not going to sit here and confidently say Green Bay is going to do good in the playoffs and they're a real Super Bowl favorite contender because they beat the Steelers by 10. I just can't do that because I feel like I'd be lying. I mean, you wish you could get more from Josh Jacobs, even though their passing game was very good today. It's just something about this team, man. That's something I don't trust. Last thing I want to hit on today, I made it pretty clear. I mean, you can see my Dustin Poirier shorts back there. I'm a pretty big UFC fan. And there's a lot of controversy over this weekend about Tom Aspinall and the Ciryl Gane fight. The fight ended because of an eye poke. Ciryl Gane stuck his entire left hand into both of Tom Aspinall's eyes and gouged and just and pushed down. The crowd and now the internet is saying that Tom Aspinall, they're hating on him. They're saying Tom Aspinall was getting whooped by Ciryl Gane in the first round, and he got bailed out by an eye poke. Not only was the strike difference like 3, like Aspinall had like 27 and Gane had 30, but Ciryl Gane cheated. He cheated in that game or in that fight. Not only did eye poke him there, he also had like an eye poke earlier in the fight too that they didn't recognize. He's been doing this forever. His back of the head shots, he's done it in like a million fights up to now. He's him in that gym in France, him and Nasser Mavov, same thing. And Mavov's also a little bit of a dirty fighter. You saw him against Baralho. Baralho got poked in the eyes as well, I'm pretty sure. So I hate the discourse around this fight that Tom Aspinall was getting whooped by Cyril Gahn and he got bailed out. Cyril Gahn cheated after a really close fight. I'm not saying Cyril Gahn looked bad. Gahn looked good. I was actually super happy to see Gahn make this a competitive fight because the heavyweight division has looked like trash ever. I mean, for a long time. But I'm excited for the rematch, and it's going to have a lot of hype around it. It's going to be a good fight in the heavyweight division, obviously. But just don't go saying that Gahn was whooping Aspinall. It just doesn't make sense. It was a close fight, yeah, and Tom was bloodied up too. But like, there's clips that Tom has posted on his YouTube. He had to go to the hospital that night. His eyes were actually messed up. He's going to be fine going in the future, which I'm sure people will use to spin against him. I just don't like seeing that as a UFC fan when everyone needs like these extremes, and even Dana White. Dana White was talking about it like you just mentioned John Jones immediately, which John Jones, I don't even want to talk about him, but yeah, I mean, it's gonna be an exciting rematch. Really unfortunate way to end a main card. But the Abu Dhabi, that card looks pretty good in November. So I mean, it's an exciting time for UFC. Just a really crappy way to end a main event. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the second episode. It was really fun to film, really fun to talk about, really fun week of football. We'll be back next week. I want to get this uploading schedule locked in for Wednesdays because my computer takes about a day to upload these videos on YouTube. And of course, editing takes a little while. I really appreciate it. If you could drop a like, comment, subscribe, obviously be super, super helpful to growing this channel, of course, because we're super new. But yeah, love you guys. You're all loved by God, and have a good week.